Hello and welcome to my Pathways to Literacy. My name is Jacob, or Mr. Eaton, as my future students will come to call me after I graduate from DePaul-University in Chicago. During this presentation, you will follow along with me as I show you how I began to read and the steps my literacy education took until I arrive at being what I consider to be critically literate. While I was growing up, I spent a lot of time outside with my brothers while my mom was reading on the couch or on the back porch. My mom read close to 3 books a week, and it always amazed me how much she read, especially because I did not like reading. I was never bad at reading or anything, I just wasn't the biggest fan. Finally, I found a book that I fell in love with, Harry Potter. Yeah, big surprise, I know. So I read the first Harry Potter when I was 11 years old. I soon read all the rest that were available and got every new book in the series the day it came out. My family often had to buy a couple copies so that the 3 boys and our father wouldn't try to kill each other for the single book we had. When I was done with Harry Potter, I would read another fantasy series or even just reread the Harry Potter books. Either way, from that point on, I did not go to sleep without reading at least a couple chapters before I turned out my light. My obsession with reading turned out to help me a lot with school, and just my general view of the world. My life then took a huge turn at the same stage that nearly everyone's lives change. I went to college. Though college slowed my reading due to time constraints, it also vastly improved it with a class I had with the most liberal person I've ever met. My writing professor required us to get a subscription to the New York Times, and every day we spent half the class reading through the articles and the rest using it to inform not only our writing, but our lives. This was when I was introduced to the idea, if not the exact term, of critical literacy. I was faced with this idea of evaluating for truthfulness, context, audience, and my own understanding of everything that I ever read. This idea was pushed further by another professor, Dr. Hall, who really hit this point home by showing us a picture of how mannequins displaying young women's clothes in stores has changed. This idea that we need to be aware of how something so simple as a display for our clothes has to be evaluated as possible and something that we should expect so that we do not fall into this trap of our society telling us that we are not good enough. Critical literacy is now something that I do every single day, every time I look at anything. When I see a clever ad, these days I will smile and say, well, that's a good way to get me to buy that. The way that I look at everything in my life has changed, and I believe for the better.
Created using Powtoon.